Let's have a look here. Hi guys, how you doing? Hi Charlie, East Lothian, how you doing? Hi Wasim. Hi, not in my dough box today. Hi. Yeah, so today we're going to be looking at interviewing Hwarangsam. If you haven't seen his page before, he does some great things on there. So he does lots of tricks. He's got all the kicks you can possibly think of, and he also does quite a lot of tutorials. And at this moment in time, when we're all stuck indoors, there are lots of tutorials there to have a look at. Everything from press-up tutorials right the way through to sit-ups. He breaks kicks down. Yeah, he's a great guy to follow. So let's just see. We've got a couple of guys coming in here. Hi Argentina, how you doing? Who else we got coming? Here he is. So we're going to come over and get Sam on. And here we go. Hi.
Yo, what's up?
Hi Sam, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Just been busy. Yeah.
Good. It looks like you're in the dojo.
Yeah, I got some work to do before we start going to the at-home order that just went out today. Yeah, so trying to get some footage down real quick before it's too late.
So you're not on full lockdown yet then, where you are?
No, it's supposed to start like today, like literally in a few, like in 7 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, it's getting kind of serious out here.
I'll try and make sure the interview doesn't last for 6.5.
All right.
So how are things? So it hasn't affected you as of yet then? Is this the case? Are you still being able to put your training in and run your school?
Running the school, not so much because all gyms are closed.
Okay.
So including like self-defense gyms, which we would fall under. So I haven't been able to operate, but there is also a lot of business, like relief stuff going on. I haven't really seen anything from it yet. I did apply for all that stuff. So the goal is just to stay afloat until we can go back to business. But, we'll see. It's hard to really gauge what's going to happen.
And how many students will you normally have in your club?
I haven't counted. I think we're around like 60, 70. I'm not super sure, but it's always been around that amount. So I'm just going to guess it's going to be somewhere around there.
Okay. So what will your plans be then if you suddenly go into lockdown? Are you going to start teaching via Zoom, or are you going to have you got another way that you're going to keep in communication with those students?
We are running classes on Zoom. I think everyone is. I'm seeing a lot of posts, especially from the other local schools around here doing the same thing. On the side, I am trying to go into making online courses that are a little bit more comprehensive. Like my videos on Instagram, they're a minute long. And they're a minute long because they're meant to be a minute long because people don't want to, I'm assuming people don't want to go through like 10 minutes of material going super in depth. They just want, in a sense, what they want to see, like what is the quick answer or whatever. So, and it's worked well. But then I get a lot of questions like, hey, can you teach me Taekwondo? It's like, not through here. So I'm actually putting together more of a comprehensive online course, but it's a lot of work, a lot more than I anticipated. I've just been outlining all week. And it's not even sparring. It's not really workouts or nutrition. It's none of that. I'm just literally going over the basic kicks. And I've written like every kick has been like about 2 pages of outlining. So I'm talking about like super detail. We're talking about body mechanics, small nuances. So I'm putting together something like that. I'm not going to make it like really expensive because I'd rather it be accessible than exclusive. So that's kind of what I'm working on the side. Don't know if it'll be successful. I'm hoping it is just because I do get a lot of requests. but it's something new for me, so I've never actually delved into it myself.
Okay. And how long have you been training for?
Training? Oof. It depends. You got to define training. I started
Training Taekwondo.
I started in '96, but
Okay.
I wouldn't say that it was the most effective years. And that's the reason why I teach the way I teach, because I felt like I wasted a lot of time. And people think that if you learn from like the Korean grandmasters, like that's the legit thing. To be honest, because of the language barrier, the inherent language barrier between, and then the old school mentality, a lot of people, I feel like it's easier to learn when you break things down objectively. We're talking about physics. We're talking about body mechanics, these universal principles that everyone follows just by being a human. I like to explain things on those terms because they're objectively true, instead of these more like concepts like never give up, always have, it's like, well, if you're approaching injury, you should probably stop, it's a different mentality. So I did waste a lot of years. And back then, Taekwondo was not seen so much as a sport per se. So its practitioners were not treated as athletes either. But it's a combat sport. It's a martial art. It's extremely physical.
Sure.
So things like strength training, endurance training, more of the classical things. I remember when I was in college, I saw some baseball players training, and I was like, there's no way I could do that. And they're not even fighting anyone. They're playing baseball. They're throwing a ball. So I'm like, all right, I got to evaluate where I am, because I'm doing running a mile, and it's pathetic. You don't see, like, back in the day, in the early 90s, you don't see clubs doing a lot of like sprint training at the track. It's, you don't really see that very, like, maybe here and there. Yeah. But now it's more like there's a lot more cross training going on. People are implementing weights. They're doing power lifts and things like that for their martial arts. And that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, we try and cross train. Involved in a lot of my own personal training is do a lot of body weight calisthenics to work on core, and actually in the current situation, this has put me in very good stead, because I have a whole bank of exercises that you can do without any equipment.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's it sort of worked a little bit in my favor, sort of being at home, because I do a lot of training at home anyway. What about you? What's your sort of percentage of training at home against training in the dojo?
To be honest, the only reason I prefer training here is not really the equipment. It's really just the atmosphere. And I notice this a lot. People don't like to train at home because we associate the home with rest and relaxation, not sweating and reaching a physical peak. So I get it. If you can get into that headspace of training hard at home, I think that's a pretty good thing. I wouldn't say I did a lot of calisthenics. A lot of my exercise are calisthenic based, but I wouldn't say that I'm a calisthenics guy. Yeah. And the only reason I put a lot of those exercises out there is because a lot of people watching say, hey, I don't have equipment. What can I do? So I did study it a bit. Me in particular, for what I do, I know Taekwondo is heavily an endurance sport, but I also do performance. I also do, we do tricking. And I did a lot of running, and I had a lot of injuries because of the way I was training was just highly endurance based, and I neglected a lot of strength training. So I had a lot of injuries. I had IT band syndrome, and I had it on both IT bands at different times. It feels like a knee injury. I even got an MRI done and everything, and they're like, oh, it looks normal. Like, it doesn't feel normal. And it's a little bit more obscure, but it was because I didn't have, my hip strength was not where it was supposed to be. And the training, implementing weights versus calisthenics versus doing, plyometric, they're all a little different. And absolutely. You don't have to do one versus the other, because I know people are going to ask that. I was like, oh, shoot, does that mean I have to lift weights to get to such and such level? No, you don't have to. But you need to know where your mechanical weaknesses lie, where your mobility is, and attack it that way. So that's not something that's discussed a lot. It's not, I wouldn't say it's super common knowledge in martial arts world collectively, but it's definitely something that should not be overlooked, because it set me back so much because I didn't know what was going on, you know.
Yeah, I understand. And you touched upon a little bit about the tricking side of things. So you do a lot of tricking. Where did that all start?
Oh my Lord Almighty! Trying to be cool in high school, because your boy I was a straight up 100% introvert, outcast type person. Your typical quiet Asian guy, if you will. And you know, breakdancing was big back then. I thought that's what I wanted to do, but then tricking became a thing. We had one friend that could do a 540, and we had no idea what it was. People were like, he spun like 5 times. It's not. It's like one spin, but we thought he spun like 5 times in the air and did this crazy kick. And there was a website that was popular back then by Billy Beleng called Beleng.com. He's from France. I met him once. And then he would post tricking videos up. And this was a thing that no one has seen outside of like movies or really in general. In NASCA, the North American Sport Karate, those people are sport karate guys, kind of made it really popular. And so it kind of stemmed from that. But keep in mind, this is in a different era. We were on 56K modems and YouTube did not exist. There was no Instagram and Facebook didn't come out yet. I remember Facebook. I remember first things, there was MySpace. I remember Facebook in college. I remember when I was in college, I remember seeing Facebook. So there was no information out there. So we did waste, I don't want to say we wasted a lot of time, but compared to the era we're in now, we wasted a lot of time just theorizing about how to do a backflip. Because none of us we didn't take gymnastics. We only did traditional Taekwondo at best. Some of our friends just jumped in because they didn't have anything better to do. So some people had no training, and that's how we started tricking back then. It kind of sucked, but
is that where some of these injuries stem from then?
It's funny because I think a lot of the injuries that I had back then, so much time has passed since then that I've overcome those injuries. So a lot of knee and ankle injuries were from those days, because we didn't, even some of the moves that are like common now weren't even invented then. Like the corkscrew is super common, and the way it was thrown back then was completely different. We didn't understand the axis and the body mechanics that went into the technique. So, but I mean, dude, we're talking like this. I started in 2001. You know, tricking in 2001. I don't think people realize how old I am. I'm 34. And they're like, oh, so you've always been talented. It's like, no, I've been doing this for nearly 20. It took me 20 years to get to this point. And I see kids who do it for like 3 or 4 years, and they've already surpassed me. It's not that I'm talented, it's that I'm persistent. And even for being persistent, I don't think I'm very far up that ladder. There's always something, you know, people, I don't see myself as an elite level of anything. Someone told me, it's like, oh, it's like being like a professional amateur. That's kind of how I feel. Even though I opened my own school, I just know how to teach because I've made so many mistakes, and I had to learn things, you know, going to every wrong place to figure out the one right place. So when someone is going this one wrong route, technically, I can say like, oh, I understand what you're thinking, but it's this way. And someone has this mistake, and say, okay, I've seen that before because I've done it. You want to go this way. That's the only reason why I think my explanations are popular, is because I understand the psychology that goes behind a lot of the way people think and move. And fun fact, that's actually my major. I have a degree in psychology, University of Maryland. So that's on my wall for no reason. It didn't do anything for me. It's just for me to brag about. That's it. And lower my car insurance, I think. That's about it. That's all it does.
But does this help with your mindset?
Yes and no. Because you know, that is to infer that anyone with a psych degree should be able to think like that, which is not the case. Studying psychology, you just kind of see that world in that lens, but to understand how to apply it is way, way different. Like when I was in college, I was in, well, you guys say university, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
was in
it.
university with my brother and future sister-in-law, and we were all psych majors, but
Hmm.
we all are completely different. And even the way we talk to people or advise are all different too. So I wouldn't say it was because I studied it. It just gave me a reference to that world of what it's like to just it's pretty much saying like, hey, this is what a human psyche is. This is what it
Hmm.
can do. This is where it's gone. And that's it pretty much. But when it comes to application, it was a lot of self-study, listening to other practical psychologists, you would say,
Yeah.
life coaches.
Okay, yeah,
So you
yeah.
see different perspectives like, okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Where are the universals? So
Hmm.
for me, that's kind of the way I approach psychology.
Yeah.
It has to be practical. It has to make sense. If it's very theorized, no one cares, right? Because it's
Yeah.
not real. It's not real to them, you know.
Hmm.
So I
Okay.
get it.
Give me a little bit of background into Marvel and the tour. Because I
So
missed you when you were over in the UK. We did try and hook up, but through one thing or another, we didn't manage to get that little link there.
yeah, I wanted to do so much while I was there. I did manage to meet with Samu Rider, and
Hmm.
but I had an injury at the time, and she also had an injury at the time. So we just kind of like tried to train. It was really hard, but I meant to
Yeah.
meet Ginger Ninja Trickster,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
then
yeah. He's coming
he,
on next week.
yeah, but then he like, I told him a long time ago, I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And then when the time got near, I was like, hey, I'm here.
Hmm.
When are you free? And he just never responded to me. I'm like, all
he
right,
was he was
forget me,
probably
I guess. And then I
he was
went,
probably in another country at the time.
no, I don't think so because I told him the timeline I was going to be there. He agreed to
Mhm.
it initially. So I felt like this is just between this chat group. I just felt like he kind of brushed me. He kind of brushed me off a little bit. I'm like, all right, whatever. I get it. I get it. I'm not going to hold it against him, but I'm not going to forget it either. And so that fell out. And then I tried to meet with Damon Sansom, and
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of GB Taekwondo. I watch their
Hmm.
vlogs, and you know my school is a WT. You know we
Yeah.
compete on the national level too, so that's
Hmm.
like part of the world I'm in. And I wanted to meet up with him, and then that didn't work. But we ended up working together kind of anyways through the Kick AI
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
merch.
I
So
saw
I was like,
that.
okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. We didn't get to meet in person, and I didn't get to like
Not yet.
not yeah, and I didn't. I wanted to not be invited to the that training facility that they're all training in.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
place looks
yeah.
so cool. I'm like, oh, must be
Yeah.
nice. That's so cool.
We had Cho on Saturday,
Okay,
and
right. He's a heavyweight, isn't he?
yeah, I'm gonna try and get over to the facility actually
Oh,
when it
what?
reopens. Yeah, yeah, and just do a session with him.
That'd be so dope.
You can
I might
come.
have to. To be honest, I actually really do enjoy and like the UK, England specifically a lot. It's the
Mhm.
second time I've been there. Oh wait, going back to what you were saying earlier with the Marvel
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
So a lot of people ask like, "Oh, are you in the movies?" Like, no, it's not the movie. I I wish I love film, and I feel like that's kind of my end goal. A
Mhm.
friend of mine actually did work on with Marvel Studios, so that was super cool. But Marvel Live is a live stadium show, and we would do like the O2 in London,
Mhm.
and that place is huge. But like huge stadium shows, it was like a 2 hour show, and I auditioned for it and got casted for Spider-Man 3 years ago, and
Mhm.
then it was a Europe tour, so it was several countries. And this time, I was like, all right, let me get back to my school. We relocated to this much bigger facility, and I was just kind of busy with that. Um, and then I was like, oh man, I don't know what to do anymore. And then they had auditions like, hey, they're doing another international one.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do the US one. It's like, oh, I live here. I don't really care that much.
Mhm.
But they're like,
Well,
hey,
I
we're
could see
going to.
you in sort of two minds in your page at one point, trying to sort of decide whether you should go off on tour or whether you should stay in the country and continue teaching.
Yeah. There was a big debate on it. I think it was for another gig. It was like this thing in China. And that, I mean, it didn't matter because that fell through anyways. Um, But then the Marvel thing came up, and they're like, yeah, they're gonna do this huge international thing. I'm like, oh really? What are they gonna do? They said UK. I said, sweet. I love to go back. I have some friends there. Then we're gonna go to Australia. I'm actually supposed to be in Australia now.
Okay.
Obviously, it got canceled.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We did South Africa. I did get to go there, and then there was this huge Asian one, which we're definitely not going to do anymore. But you know, because of the pandemic, all that got canceled. Everyone is off. There's no more any shows. Nothing. I mean, and they canceled the NBA. They canceled all of like the major, of course. So I was like, all right. It's okay, because at that point I was kind of a little tired of traveling, and I wanted to actually be here and train properly. So it was good and bad. Like, oh, I wish I could stay home, but you know, not like this. Yeah, so like a little bittersweet.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you say you were performing as Spider-Man. So what kind of things did you have to do in the performance?
So for this tour, it was funny because there was an article, ironically enough, that was printed in Australia, which we're not even in right now, that I got to do a written interview with, and I played both a villain and hero. I did Green Goblin and Spider-Man, which is funny because they're like rivals. Yeah. So a lot of things that are suspended in the air, super cool. Like they would make this huge rigging, like 4 stories up in every arena that was controlling all the wire work. Okay. So a lot of obviously for Spider-Man, there's a lot of swing type things. Yeah. Really, it can be really iffy because some are automated, some are manually controlled, but these are all real things. Like there is no such thing as CGI when you're flying in the air. It's like, no, this is really happening right now. Yeah. So sometimes there'll be a harness, sometimes there won't be a harness. There'll be like a hand loop, and you know, you're really going up 20, 30 feet. You're really going up 40 feet. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff, which is hard, and it can be very taxing on the body, especially like the shoulder, because you're being pulled all the time. But it's also, I'm not gonna lie, it was also really fun.
I can imagine. Full houses every time?
Not every time. It's hard to predict. Obviously, like the weekday shows may not be as full as the weekend shows. And it also depends on where, like South Africa, the demographic, you know, not everyone's going to just have this expendable income to watch a show in a stadium. So we definitely saw some smaller crowds there, but I'm glad they were actually more interactive. They're very loud, a lot of cheering. So we still got a lot of energy from that crowd regardless. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, no complaints there.
And tell me, where did the initial idea come from for doing these tutorials? I looked at your page sort of maybe 18 months ago. I think you maybe even contacted me 18 months ago and DM'd a couple of videos which were sort of kicking on Bob and things like this. And then maybe 3 or 4 months later, I saw the first tutorial come out, and then you seem to be guided down the tutorial route for a while after that.
Yeah, I remember this is like before I had 1,000 followers. I thought that was like the way to go. It's like, all right, what's like the martial arts niche in Instagram? And I saw a lot of, you know, people doing, I'm not going to lie, I'm not a big fan of it, but like the gimmicky martial arts posts, you know what I'm talking about? Like the challenges and like, oh, I'm going to kick this thing hanging from something and kick it into a basket, or like those are like party tricks. They're like they're fun, but like they're very gimmicky and they're very popular. That's why I say it's gimmicky, because a lot of people buy into it, they like it, it gets reposted all the time. I really don't like that kind of stuff, and that's why I made that one parody video about the bottle cap challenge where I was refusing to because everyone's like, that was genuine. I was like, I hate this so much, but I'm gonna do it, but in a way that I'm okay with. And that was the way to make fun of it. Like I'm not gonna hate on it, but me personally, that's just kind of how I feel every time I see it. I'm like, oh, that was cool, but it was gimmicky. Oh, that's cool, that was gimmicky. But anyways, the Bob thing, it was funny because it's a way for me to train, because I'll do it and it looks terrible, so I'll do it again, and it'll be like an hour has passed. I'm sweating bullets
Yeah.
just to get this one stupid combination down. And then it looks good. I'm like, oh, let me post it. And it got a lot of views. I thought tricking was the way because I thought tricking was always impressive. And I look at some of the best trickers in the world and I look at their page and they'll be around 10,000, 20,000, maybe 50,000 followers, like max. Other than like the more like celebrity type guys like the Shin Minchul of, you know, sponsored by Red Bull. Okay, those guys are definitely different. But everyone else who's like, I know they're more talented, their tricking prowess has far surpassed mine. And they're like of a third or a fourth of the following that I have. So I look at them like, maybe that's not really as popular as I think because I'm probably biased. So, all right. And then I think someone either requested it or I just decided to do it on my own. I can't remember what the reason was, but I do remember saying, I remember what it was. I would analyze my own behavior. Maybe this is the psychology part again, but I would look at myself and be like, oh shoot, what videos am I liking and what videos am I saving for later? And they were all like, and they weren't tutorials, but someone would do something cool that I plan to watch in slow-mo and study and break a technique apart on my own later. It's like, oh, it's something that I can learn from. Well, if I feel that way, maybe other people do too. So let me put something that has value to this audience. And the audience is just anyone on IG, maybe the martial arts community, and then hopefully maybe even like the fitness type community. And let's see where that goes. And it was pretty popular. And to be honest, a lot of the tutorials that followed that weren't because I decided to make it. They were all requests. Originally, they were requests. And that is funny because someone said, hey, can you do one for the kip up? I'm like, that is so stupid. But you know what? I got nothing better to do. Screw it. I'll just do it. And that one passed over 400,000 views. I'm like, all right, whatever. What do I know? I guess.
Yeah, give the people what they want.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't even know what people want sometimes. And then, so then I did something really advanced. Recently, I posted a beat twist swing through gainer tutorial, which is pretty hard. And that got like, I don't know, like, I don't even know if it passed 20,000 views. It got very, very little. Like, I was like, oh, snap. I thought this would be pretty, like, because I have followers who are beginners and I have followers who are also very talented. And let's see what's more popular. And I noticed the more instructional and beginner type techniques are more popular and more shared and more saved. So I'm kind of trying to fill out like what do people want to see. But yeah, most of my tutorials are by requests. And then actually I feel like at a certain point they all just became that. Like even now I'm thinking about it. Like the B-twist gainer one was my choice. And that didn't do very well. Other than everything else has been a request. The
Stick with the request by the sounds of things.
The workout ones, the no equipment workout ones that I've been reposting recently, that started because I have a lot of followers in places like India where they're not gonna go to like a gym or have a gym membership, or maybe they don't have access to it. So like, hey, I don't really have any equipment. How can I work out my legs? And then, you know, that's why I made those videos, is because once again, they were requested, but there was a certain need and a certain condition. It wasn't like, hey, I'll make this, you know, someone did once upon a time, inspired me to make them through a request.
No, this is great. I've got a question that's just come in here. It says, I'm a trained actress. How did you find acting when your primary training is Taekwondo? Was it a challenge?
So on that, I think there's two roads we can go down. So one, we're talking about raw acting. We're talking about, you know, dialogue. We're talking about emotion. And then there's action acting, which is, there's a stark difference between that and regular action. A lot of great fighters are terrible action performers because with combat arts, the attacks are meant to be subtle. They're meant to be discreet, non-detected. Visually and aesthetically or artistically, it looks terrible. So to do action well on film, you sometimes have to do the technique very, very incorrectly. And a lot of things like your facial expression, people don't realize that when they do an attack that they don't have a facial expression. And it takes away from, when a viewer sees that, there's an emotional tug or a lack thereof. But going back to the original question, me, do I consider myself as an act? I consider myself as like half,
Okay.
because I haven't really done a lot of acting, very, very little. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy trying. I think it's very fun, but it really does. It's an awkward mentality, especially for a martial artist. You have to be okay with putting yourself out there. I guess people say being vulnerable in a sense, to anyone who's watching, because it feels silly sometimes, to be in a character that's not you. It's not your character, but you have to portray a character. It feels silly. So that was a huge mental thing for me to get over. But I definitely am more into film action. And it's definitely hard. You have to do something and then watch yourself, because the camera angle, like a lot of like the small things that usually the camera hands and filmmakers and choreographers have to deal with, you as a performer need to know that too. Like if a camera is here and they say ready, go, and I go in front of the camera and do a punch, you just ruin the shot. So there's a lot of there is a lot of technique behind, just like film technique, that you should, if you're into that world or getting into it, you should definitely understand and study as well, beyond your own, just beyond your own performance. There's also that aspect.
Yeah,
I don't know if I answered that question.
That's fine. That's fine. We had Victoria Stambert on yesterday.
Okay, yeah, she was here.
Yeah,
I had her here.
So,
I invited her.
tell us a little bit about that meeting up with Victoria. What was that like?
Oh, this is a really weird thing. So check it out. So remember when I went to Marvel the first time? I don't even know if it's 3 or 4 years ago at this point. I think it's 4 years ago now. So one of my castmates, who he also did some roles as Spidey in the show along with me. So we kind of had that nice, we were good friends, and he was a parkour guy in Tricker. So we would train a lot together. And he lives in the same area as her. And I saw on her story him. I'm like, his name is Juan. I'm like, why is Juan? Because it's like worlds colliding. I know you because you're an Olympic Taekwondo athlete. I know him because we literally perform together. He doesn't do Taekwondo. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a belt. Maybe he has a belt. Maybe, I don't know if he did it when he was a kid or not. Pretty sure he doesn't. So I was like, I saw him at her dojang, and he was tricking. I'm like, what is going on right now? Like, none of this makes sense. Like, what? And then I figured out they both lived in Texas. I'm like, oh, okay. And then they started dating. And I was like, boom. So that created that weird little connection. It's like, oh snap, Juan. It's like, yeah, we're like dating now. Like, nah. And then we're talking about like, well, I'm coming back from, I think this was right before I was leaving for South Africa. It's like, well, I have like a week, and it kind of matched with her free week. And we haven't run a seminar in a while with a U.S. team or a international type person. We had Philip Yoon on a few years ago, and then we had Cheyenne Lewis come on in, and she ran a seminar. So I was like, wow, we haven't done that in years. So let's get Victoria Stambo, because I feel like we're kind of close, personality-wise. And then when she came, and then we would just talk, and we had similar viewpoints on a lot of things. So it was pretty cool, and a little bit of insight on that world, because I was not an athlete in that circuit. And I kind of wish I was, but at the same time, the amount of investment it takes to do that, I wouldn't be able to do anything else that I'm doing now. I wouldn't be performing. I wouldn't be able to do film, and I wouldn't own a school. Not at that time. Like, I feel like I'm a little past where I would want to be. That is like, injury rate's pretty high. I like my knees. So I don't think I need to go that route generally. And I don't know if the benefit of thriving even in that world is worth it for me, at least. I know for some people it is. In the States, we don't really have a state-funded team, and I feel like it's a bit of a shame, because I see our athletes who are on the U.S. national team starting GoFundMes to sponsor their trip to compete. And then I'll watch like GBs, like vlogs and stuff, and they're all flown out together. They're all housed together, and they all have this like stipend. I'm like, what's going on? How y'all getting all those benefits? And then, you know, I see like other countries like, you know, Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan, and they'll be training in some, like, it didn't look like a very good facility, and they all have e-hogus on. Those are $500 US here.
Yeah.
But they all have him just for like general training. It wasn't even like, they didn't even look like a team training. Like, well, like, you got funded somehow. Like, your government is involved in this.
So where is that lack of funding from then? Are you saying it's not popular enough? Why
I think
is the sport
so.
not funded as much over there?
Yeah, I mean, like if you talk to most general people, like just in the streets or whatever, you ask them to name a famous, you know, such a football player or basketball player. Everyone knows someone. You will probably find 1% of, if you just went to like Walmart. Wait, what do you guys have there? Aldi. you go somewhere.
As does the Walmart of
Woolworth,
the UK.
The co-op. I love co-op. And then you go and you ask just like a random sample of like 100 people, name one Taekwondo athlete or national team or Olympic athlete that does Taekwondo. I guarantee 9 times out of 10, 0% will be able to name one. And then I hear stories like someone in Puerto Rico or like Mexico, and they'll see a Taekwondo athlete on a billboard. I'm like, oh, what? Really? What? I was in England, and I went to a sports store, and I saw a wall that was Jade Jones.
Jade, yeah.
Yeah, and the whole wall was like picture, Under Armour. Not like you would never. I feel like you would never see that here, not in the States at least. I've never seen it in the States.
Interesting. Even Bianca at the moment is she's on adverts in an advertising campaign on the TV in the UK.
No way! Are you serious?
Yeah. You're training in the wrong country.
Okay, well, long story short, I think it's just not really popular here. I have my own students. Their parents will come in and say, you know, I hear them on the phone. It's like, yeah, I'm at karate. I'm like, oh my god. You know, they'll still call it karate. They won't know the difference. Like, I don't know what the difference is between Taekwondo. Yeah, so I had to explain to them, like, they're from 2 different countries, and they're 2 completely different styles. But people just don't know here. I don't want to say it's, I almost, like, the biased side of me wants to say it's ignorance, but the realist, it's just not popular. That's really what it is.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've got quite a, for Taekwondo Worldwide, we have quite a big following in the US.
There's a lot of practitioners.
So you're surprising me.
I think it's in more terms, if you're not directly involved in it, and I'm just talking about like pop culture. In pop culture, it's not really that well known. But if you said Taekwondo, everyone would kind of know what you're talking about. But in terms of like, oh yeah, the Olympic path, oh, these are like actual athletes, it's kind of known here more as like, it's something you do as a kid and then you grow out of it.
Okay, so what can we do then to raise more awareness in the US? You know,
in the US.
If we can use the page in some way and get to the right people, I'm more than happy to have those conversations. You know,
it's kind of hard to say what makes it popular in the. I mean, definitely film does have a positive influence on it because you know they'll see someone doing flashy kicks and like, you know, if someone inquires like, oh, what kind of kicks are those? They'll say, oh, those are Taekwondo kicks. Like doing the switch. Like there are some kicks that are just iconic to Taekwondo. And that is what it is. But film does have a positive influence. I think because the Olympic sport as an event, as an actual sporting event, is not super well known. I think it's, I think people don't realize that, you know, these are all adults. Like, you're not going to go to Olympic as like an elementary school or like a middle school kid, which people kind of generalize is like, oh, that's what I did Taekwondo. My nephew does that. Ha ha ha. You know, so there's a lot of those kind of comments, but I think people just don't really see that world. Like I don't want to say it's a subculture per se, but kind of is. I think martial arts in general is a subculture. And it's just not popularly understood to involve adults as well.
Okay.
And that's what I've noticed. I mean, obviously there are always exceptions to the rules, and there are people who don't see it that way. But I'm talking about the general mass public, kind of. I feel like they have that attitude towards martial arts, like, oh, it's not for me, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, have you done any other martial arts?
I've dabbled. I am a big fan of boxing. I used
Hmm.
to watch a lot of the HBO 24/7, or they'll follow the fighters before their fight for like a few weeks, and I like see how they train and what their life is
Yeah.
like, and get super inspired by that. I did do a lot of boxing. Some of my videos, you know, you can see me throw. It's like, oh, he can punch too. It's like, yeah, I've been boxing for a little bit. What else? I mean, obviously, you know, if you're gonna punch and kick, you're gonna kickbox eventually.
Mm.
And if you're kickboxing, you're going to eventually understand a little bit of Muay Thai. So I
Yeah.
dabbled in those. I wouldn't say I'm classically trained because I know a lot of Muay Thai involves a lot of clinch techniques and clinch strategies, and I haven't delved into that. So I don't want to say that I'm trained in it because just out of respect for the style, I'm not going to. I've had people do it all. Oh, they know how to do a Jenga, so they say I've done capoeira. It's like, no,
Okay.
you learn like one thing. That's not even a move,
Yeah.
bro. Like you didn't do capoeira. Get out of here. So I'm not gonna say I did Muay Thai. I've dabbled in, and I've dabbled in Kung Fu is actually really funny. For me, I've always disliked Kung Fu because I always thought it was so theoretical. But now that I'm in film, I can see the artistic value. And I met a friend who changed my mind. His name is Terrell. Avatar Coda is his handle. And back when he was in this area, I would tag him all the time. But he did Shaolin, but he did it since he was like an infant, pretty much. And the way he did it was real to me. And it was funny because then he would ask me to teach him Taekwondo, and he learned it very quickly. So I, in turn, asked him to teach me Kung Fu. And it reminded me a lot of old school Taekwondo, traditional stances. Because, you know, the sport Pumse world is super popular now.
Yeah.
And all the stances are changed. And there's a standard now where it's measured out, regulated for accuracy. And everything to me felt a little bit smaller than what it used to be way back then. Like the low, long stances were favorable. Yeah. And that's what I remember. So then we made these changes and adjustments to compete. And then when he started teaching me Kung Fu, we did some basic stuff. And then I got into the Tiger style there's a short film that we released that was supposed to be longer, but it's kind of like, I don't know where it's going to go, called Zodiac City. And if you watch it, it's a lot of Kung Fu based choreography, but I've never done Kung Fu except for that little bit of Tiger style that he taught me. And we used those fundamentals for the choreography of that one piece from Team. So yeah, Team Red Pro is the film team that we it's like me and my friends, and then we train here. We choreograph and do all that stuff. But Joseph Lay, he's like the mastermind behind a lot of the projects, pretty much almost all the projects we do. So.
No, that's interesting. I used to do a bit of Kung Fu myself for 6 years, in fact. so
that's not a little bit, that's a lot.
got to a sort of brown sash. That's probably why I started the other page, Martial Arts Worldwide, just to give people a cross-section of martial arts, as well as having an individual Taekwondo page. Because I suppose a bit of the ethos is I quite like the idea that in any martial arts, you still steal techniques. You know,
that's the way. To be honest, that's the way I view it. Like a lot of people say, like, "Hey, which kicks are better, Taekwondo or a Kung Fu?" I'm like, oh my god. First of all, you know, there's so many different styles. Kung Fu is just a general term. It means like your skill. If you roughly translate the actual Chinese word, it doesn't technically mean a style of martial arts. You know, if you're doing, you know, they'll say, "Oh, this is wushu, this is jiaoga, this is." They don't say this is kung fu. So there's that, but it's not the style per se. It's literally only a few things. Every kick follows the same rules. If you have two legs, you have hips, you have arms. Your body can only do so many things, and they all move in a similar way. No one's knees, you know, are like, we're not, you know, bends backwards, or like we have a hinge joint in our hip and a circular in the ball and socket joint on our. No one is built this way. So the body can only perform movements in a certain sequence.
Yeah.
And I think what people don't understand is like, and this is something I kind of am going over in my own course. They say this is a Taekwondo kick. This is a Muay Thai kick. I see it as the same. I just say Taekwondo just because I'm biased. I say this is a linear roundhouse kick. this is a circular roundhouse kick or lateral roundhouse kick. They're not based on a style. They're based on mechanics.
Okay.
This is a cut kick. This is a side kick. The difference is in the degree of chamber and hip engagement, right? And we're talking about internal, external rotation of the foot, and they're just preferential choices that we make. And then the other aspect of kicking technique is how are they perceived psychologically by the opponent? If I do something like a twist kick, I am conditioning in their mind to see a certain shape, a visual stimulus to respond to. And then whatever kick I do after that, like the question mark kick or Brazilian kick, some people say it's a Japanese kick. Some people say it's a Brazilian kick. I just say it's a kick that we do in Taekwondo as well, is because the psychology is I see a knee in a certain position and they will respond to it a certain way because they've seen this stimulus, this outcome, this stimulus, this outcome. I give them this stimulus, give them a different outcome. That was an effective kick for that situation. You see what I'm saying? Okay. So it's not a style. It's a mechanical thing and it's a psychological thing. And to me, that's what kicking technique and all striking techniques boil down to. I don't say it's a style. Like these are what boxers do. It's like, well, boxers do that, yes, but that doesn't mean you can't do them in Taekwondo. I throw a right cross all the time. I don't like the sparring cross. I'm not a big fan of that because I think it's silly. But it does work. If it works, it works. You know, whatever. You got to score.
Do you what's your take on hand techniques? Because okay, you're WT Taekwondo. I practice ITF Taekwondo, and in ITF Taekwondo we use our hands. You know, we're taught to use our hands.
I'm a big fan of the ITF hands because it is very boxing based and it integrated very well with the linear style of Taekwondo of the kicks. You know, Muay Thai, it's very similar to boxing, but they have a lot of circular kicks, and then their straight is like their teeth, their front kick. I've seen them dabble in other kicks, but it's not part of their, I wouldn't say it's part of their base style. I like ITF because Taekwondo kicks are essentially linear kicks. They're meant to go forward instead of around, unless, I mean, obviously with the hook kicks, a lot of people like to do circuit, whatever. But I like how they integrate it because it's very unique to ITF style. I'm a big fan of that for WT, obviously, because we don't punch to the head, and a lot of hand techniques are based because our hands are set higher than our hips. So it's a lot more natural for us to aim for a high target like the head. But for WT, we don't have that. It's all body shots. And it's not really taught in the same way that a boxer would be taught because it's meant to be discreet in boxing. We don't want to, but for us, because it has to score and there is a visual component to that, the judges have to be able to see the punch. A lot of people cock it way back so that judges can see it, and it has the visual aesthetic of being powerful. And then if it stops our opponent or pushes them back, that's the second criteria that judges have to see. So there's a lot of visual components to it. So I don't think it's a good punch technically. I think it's a good punch in the sport aspect because it does what it's supposed to do, which is to score a point. And it's funny because if you look at the same style, still WT, you look at the forms world, there's a lot of things that are open hand. And I always think open hand techniques are meant to be grabs. And there are elbow strikes. But we say, oh, that's Muay Thai. We have elbow strikes and literally a knee strike in the forms that we teach the children. You know, there are knees and elbows in Taekwondo, but because they're not popularized in sparring, which is the only real thing that a lot of the mass public will see, that association is never met. It's never made, excuse me. But if you look at traditional Taekwondo, it's like we have punches. Most of the forms are hand techniques. Ironically enough, there's very little kicking in Taekwondo forms. There's like a few kicks. But other than that, it's all stances and it's all hand techniques.
So do you teach any form of self-defense?
There was a time that I actually allotted a time just for self-defense techniques. And it was ironic. I think it might be the demographic here. You know, this is where we are in Maryland is a very nice place. I would say it's fairly peaceful. A lot of good parents, a lot of great kids. You know, very suburbia. Self-defense is very gritty. I remember we were introducing choking techniques, and it was not well received because to feel like, you know, if you're actually in danger, that's what self-defense is. But it's very uncomfortable. because you understand your mortality at a certain point. Like, oh, I could pass out from this if my partner was malicious enough. I mean, obviously I would never allow that in my class, but just the fact that that line was there and it was drawn for everyone to see, I felt like it was kind of like, why would they do it if they don't have to? Versus the mentality of, hey, one day I might actually be attacked.
Absolutely.
And people who have been attacked, a lot of them are motivated or inspired to do self-defense classes because they understand, like, this might happen whether I want it to or not. And I'd rather be uncomfortable now in a safe environment than uncomfortable in a dangerous environment. And I feel like that's where a lot of self-defense is popular. But I myself don't like to teach it. And because it's I think proper self-defense training is mostly psychological and emotional. The physical component, yes, there is a huge physical component. Obviously, it's a physical altercation. But in terms of the complexity of techniques, the best self-defense techniques are super simple because they should be simple. The whole concept of Krav Maga is to go with your natural instinct that's obviously guided to be effective, and simplicity. You're not going to throw a spinning hook kick in self-defense.
No.
You're not, you know. And it's funny because I do have one older student who would tell me he lives in a rough part, and he would, you know, have to defend himself sometimes, and he would literally do Taekwondo techniques, and it would work. I remember he told me one altercation he ended up doing a roundhouse feint to turning back kick. So we say it's a trap strategy, it's a trap back kick. And he kicked the guy into like some like machinery or something, and it was like over. I'm like, why was that your go-to? And I remember like, and it would always be like TKD, like, yeah, he would like hold up like a cut chamber in self-defense, and and like, you know, if he's gonna throw an attack, it's gonna be like a front like roundhouse kick. It was like, all right, dude. I mean, that's cool in a sense, like just avoid these situations. But at the same time, like, you know, I don't think Taekwondo techniques are obsolete. You just have to understand your range. You know, kicks are long, mid and long range.
Yeah.
But you know, I think I'm not against it. I think everyone should learn basic. I did dabble in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu too. I think everyone should kind of understand the basics of that. Super, super effective, definitely. But you know, really depends on your personal. I'm not going to say do this or do that. Really.
But we train in something called Hosinsul, and the Hosinsul is about self defense. So we do sort of prearranged sparring to get you into the idea of you know, how to defend yourself in given situations, and then you practice that, and then over a period of time, what you hope is that this becomes natural. And therefore, if you're in a threatened situation, you should be able to just respond automatically. What are you feeling on that, B?
So like, I guess we say one step sparring, or okay.
This Hosinsul though is specifically aimed at teaching you sort of self-defense techniques. So what you're trying to do in your defense is using attacking techniques to specific points, and these points, what would you deem them as? Originally, pressure points, you'd probably call them in Kung Fu, but you know, proper striking points whereby you're aiming to stop your opponent quite quickly.
Right, like you're not gonna punch someone like on their side of their arm.
No, you may get them straight in the neck, or whatever it takes. Attack to the temple, you know, all these sort of things that work.
I feel like, and this is something that I always say, every technique that exists for a reason. There's always a proper time and situation to do such and such move, no matter how strange it seems. Like, to be honest, even like the 720 hook kick, there is actually a proper time in sparring to do that. It's a extended trap technique, but it is one that still makes sense to do. And there is it's very specific though. It doesn't happen a lot, but there is a very specific time where it is a very good idea to do something like that. But in terms of one-step sparring, I think it is good. I think every technique is good at to some degree. But I do think it's good to prepare someone mechanically to move in a certain way. The only thing I could, if I had to find something to speak against it, is that with a physical altercation, there is a huge emotional component that goes into it. Not all the time, but a lot of times, you know, you don't, when you're in class, you're relaxed, you're happy, you know, you're training with your friends. If you know something bad is about to happen, you know, generally we get that adrenaline, that nervous feeling.
Yeah.
And some people who have not experienced that don't know how to properly respond to it. And, you know, they don't know how to move at that point, and they start thinking weird things or blah, blah, blah. I remember there was one story I heard where they're doing self-defense techniques. I think it was a Krav Maga class. I could be wrong. Or it might have been a Kung Fu class. And they were doing it. The guy was doing it perfectly every time. And said, okay, I'm going to do it one time. Everyone watch. And he just started like yelling and cursing at this guy. And then he came at him the same way physically, but he was just like yelling and like, and you don't expect someone to like curse you out in the middle of a class. Like, you stupid, you know, A, B, C, D, F, G, I'm going to kill you. And then he'll do the thing. And the guy just froze up.
Okay.
He did it perfectly over the entire class. He was doing it perfectly and super well. He was just shocked at the emotional response that preceded the physical technique. And that was, and the thing is, I can see that. Oh, I can see that happening. I can see that happening everywhere, really. I can imagine a lot of classes, you know, where, you know, little Timmy is working with little Julie, and like, oh, front choke. Oh, nice. Like, no one's going to choke you like that. Like, you know, it's not going to happen. They're going to be like, you stupid. You know, I'm assuming it's like, let's say it's another girl fighting another girl. They're going to like pull your hair or whatever, smack you, and then they're going to choke you. So there is also that reality that should be addressed. But I think one-touch sparring is perfect for taking care of everything else before that one last thing, which is really awkward to introduce in a class setting. So I get it. You know, it's making best of your situation. So I think it's good. I have nothing against it. As long as the reality of the situation is also addressed, I think it's perfectly fine, in my opinion. Yeah. Definitely. Okay,
so we're sort of coming towards the end of our interview, and what I've been trying to do in the last ones is trying to get our guests to perform a challenge that we can put out to our followers.
Me put out a challenge. I think you about
absolutely.
Like, wait,
I mean, I'm not going to set you a challenge, but either a technique that you can demonstrate that they can try at home, or something that you think is sort of fairly simple that we can get them to post in their stories, and we can put that out there after. Is there anything you think that you could show us?
Oh man, that the followers can do?
Yeah.
What if I do something dangerous? Like I just do like a backflip. All right, guys, good luck.
Something simple.
Videos to Taekwondo Worldwide. It's all their fault. I'm just here. Something simple.
Yeah. Maybe a very simple kick combination.
Dang,
I can see young Bob in the background there. Not that you have to use him.
I have a thing that bothers me a lot. It's people who do circular techniques and don't understand that they have a linear component to them as well. And I go over this on the course I'm currently making as well. But it's a little frustrating because it's actually the basic combination starter in tricking, but it's also your basic spinning combination in Taekwondo as well. But they're different because one is lateral and one is linear, and they're done differently. I'm trying to my phone is set up on like this thing that's blocking my face. So I'm trying to read the comments.
We can see you clearly.
No, I'm trying to read the comments, but I can't see that. I feel bad because I want to respond to everyone that's saying stuff because I don't want them to feel like I'm ignoring it. I literally just can't see any of the text that you guys are doing. It's hard to explain. I have a thing that blocks.
What we will do, because what always happens is when we reach an hour, it will cut our communication. So we're 10 seconds. So we're going to come out and then we're going to rejoin, and then
that long?
Yeah.
So hello again, everybody. Sorry about that. Hey, some people really get into these interviews, and we're not going to knock that. It's great if we can talk about our sport in a way that everybody enjoys. So in a couple of minutes, I'm sure Sam will come back on live. He's going to show us this technique that you can have a go at home.
And here he comes. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Hi, Sam.
And we're back. All right,
Sorry.
cool.
So yeah, if you could show us a little something, that'd be great. Doesn't have to be too complicated, but it'd be nice for a couple of people to try.
All right. So what I want people to do is a 3-hit combination is literally a back leg roundhouse kick, tornado kick, turning hook kick, but they need to be done linearly. And there's only 2. I mean, roundhouse, back leg roundhouse kick, obviously, whatever. Just not the circular one. Don't spin a big circle. It's literally pivot in the hips, drop it. I'm going to explain it now because I feel like once I'm back there, you might not be able to get it as well. The tornado kick, the linear tornado kick, there's essentially 2 jumps to it instead of a lot of people do 1. The single jump technique is, I say pivot style, or even the switch step. If you've seen, I'm going to start stretching now, shoot.
Yeah, get warmed
up. Some of my
do not get injured. I don't want that on me whilst you're stuck
like,
behind closed doors.
I'm closing the account. Blame it's over. It's all.
It was his fault.
I can't recover from my hamstring pull. So the tornado kick for a linear style does have 2 jumps, and I don't think a lot of people realize that there is a difference. So if you're tricking, don't do it this way. Unless you're doing the K step, which is, I'm not going to explain because that's a whole different conversation. There's 2 jumps. The first jump, you pivot on the front foot to finish your rotation on the ground. You should be facing the front before you even jump for the kick. The second jump is where the hip turn happens and the kick is, and you drop the kick in front of you the same way you would for a back leg roundhouse kick. It doesn't swing all the way around unless you're doing a tricking style or you just kind of overshot it, which is not good for sparring because it opens you up for a counterattack unless you're trapping with a hook kick, which is ironically enough the combination we're doing. The last one, the turning hook kick, a lot of people, I swear, I don't know, people just don't know or they prefer to do a circular. A lot of people will do the hook kick and bring it all the way around, beautiful circle, and all the way back to the back, pretty much where they started from. So they do a full 360. To me, that is a circular hook kick. It is a different type of hook kick. And I don't know if people understand that there's actually more than one type. There's a few. I think there's 3 or 4 that I do. So a linear hook kick, the range of motion is driven from the hips, meaning my knee drawing back and then dropping. If you do it correctly, after you hook kick, you should be able to drop and walk in front of you instead of pulling it all the way to the back. So to me, I think it's harder. And man, this is about to be bad. Like you're about to expose me in front of those people watching. Like, oh wow, hwarangsam actually sucks.
Well,
what a fraud.
after you do this, we're not going to be seeing you for a few months, so it'll be okay. You got plenty of
I'll be around.
to come back.
I
mean, if you get injured.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be a new. I'm gonna make a new account just to sabotage you. It's gonna be like Taekwondo with like a C, Taekwondo Worldwide.
Why not?
All right, I think I'm taking this off. I think you can still hear me a bit.
Yeah, we've got you. You're still sounding good.
All right, so I'm going to try to talk in the distance. What the heck is this? You got me in my jeans. I got keys in my pocket.
This is real. This is real.
Doing, bro? I have Earl Grey tea for some reason. I don't know why this is in my pocket. And I'm
impressed. The UK is still living with us
right now. I don't know if you can see me very well. I can't even see my own phone. So we should
let's have a look.
Forward. Meaning if I do roundhouse kick, I should drop in front. The tornado kick is 2 hops. I leave here, pick this foot up and turn. This is the first hop.
Yeah, I showed it here, and then I did the second jump to kick and drop in front again. From here, we do the turning hook kick, and this is what I'm talking about. A lot of people will kick and swing it all the way back kick. I don't really want that. I want kick and dropping in front. You should be able to still do it.
Okay.
So
More control.
this is what I mean by linear. Moving down the straight line, all the picking is here. 1, 2, dropping in front. This way you can
Nice.
move back, you can drop it, pick it back up, or whatever. Could you see that?
Yeah. That's good.
All right, great. Man,
I even got what you were saying. You know, this is how we do our kick in ITF actually.
Yeah,
Just like
so
that.
I know a lot of people that follow are not classically trained. So all you guys who are at home trying to figure it out, I get it. All right, good. We're back on. I hope that looks okay. I'm trying to. What's up?
Yeah, so this has been great. So before we sort of tie up, can you give everybody your YouTube handle? Because a few people are asking if you've got a YouTube channel.
Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to. Okay, I can't look at all these comments. There's so many.
Yeah, I think you'll have to go through those later. There's quite a lot.
Oh, wait, I think there's more people watching now than. Well, I didn't realize that the first part was an hour. You said?
Yeah, I know.
No, wow, definitely didn't feel that long, which is cool. I guess I did talk a lot, man. I talk a lot.
It's fine.
Right.
It's fine.
My YouTube.
We've had maybe 2,300 people watching so far.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Holy moly! I thought it was just like I just see like the number here that's like 50.
No,
54.
but some people are coming in and coming out. So yeah, there's been over 2,000 people so far.
Cool. That's cool. I hope. I can't read these comments. Screw it. I mean, I only am concerned because I want to answer them. What's your idea about Iran? I think Iran is one of the top Taekwondo countries, and I always say that they're one of the top. Oh my goodness, there's a lot. Family. Oh hey, Jay, my PT who pretty much fixed my ITs. Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
Okay, I can't read this.
Yeah, there's a lot there. But
so
don't worry. Okay, so what we're trying to do at the moment, because you can't record the live interviews anymore, unfortunately. The way Instagram works is that once the video is shared for 24 hours, which we will leave on our timeline for 24 hours, then it disappears. So what I'm trying to do at the moment is actually record those with a screen recorder, and then I'm going to post those to a YouTube channel. So we're going to be setting up the Taekwondo Worldwide YouTube page, and then on that page you'll be able to still access these interviews at a later date and at your leisure.
Interesting. That's really good. I'm glad. I felt like we said a lot of good things. I mean, I hope so. I hope everyone has been watching.
It's nice to
been like, how do I deal with training after an injury? Oh yeah, you gotta. If you have an injury that's very specific, study it. Study how people that's what I did for my injuries. I studied other people who had them, and then tackled it. You got to be smart about it. You can't just be like, oh, I'll just tough it out. You just make it worse. But no, I'm sorry. I'm getting like really distracted right now. My YouTube link is in my bio in my Instagram, and I feel a little bad because I've always meant to. I started on YouTube, and I did some comedy bits that are I think they're a little cringy, but a lot of people like them. I've had people come to me in tournaments and say, "Oh, I know you." I'm like, "Oh, from Instagram." They said, "No, from YouTube." I'm like, "What? I don't even do YouTube anymore."
Yeah. What happened to the YouTube? Yeah.
And my YouTube following is pretty low. It's like 3,000 something. But I'm not really active on YouTube. But I've always meant to be. But it's just like it just seems a little daunting sometimes. Like, oh, I got to do YouTube now. So I just kind of avoid it. But I feel like once I start doing it routinely, I think you'll probably see me on YouTube more because obviously I can explain things more thoroughly, and I like doing more entertaining yet still informational type videos. I like that a lot because I think it reflects my personality a little bit more accurately. I'm not really super formal. Actually, I think most of my friends will attest to my informality. Do I hear a dog or something?
Yeah. I'm just trying to get my wife to let him out.
Whose man's is that? All right, cool. Gotcha.
That's it. He's gone outside now.
All right, cool.
Yeah, he's super active. You see him a lot in when I do the videos outside. You see him sometimes.
Oh, okay.
He's great. He's just barking at some people outside there.
All right, Fatima Ahmed. Thank you. I'm gonna try to.
So your YouTube handle is on your Instagram page, and your Instagram is hwarangsam. Can you just spell that for me? So at hwarangsam.
So hwarangsam, Hwarang. Hwarang is a little bit easier to hear phonetically. Sam, my name is Sam. hwarangsam, that's my Instagram handle. I remember my YouTube handle, I think is literally HMA Colombia, Hwarang Martial. I made the channel because I thought I was going to use it for my school. And I never really, I kind of did, but not really. It's just like my personal one for the most part. But I try to keep it, safe for work, safe for children, because I know a lot of younger people and even my students kind of see a lot of that media. So I try to make sure, language is clean, content is clean.
Yeah.
I had one thing that I released that I did for a friend, and I realized that there was, I think there was like a drinking scene in there. It was a comedy bit, but I thought it was a little bit inappropriate for my viewership. So I just took it off. I feel bad because the project was my friend's project, but I don't know, what can you do? Isn't your channel Samuel Lee? I don't know what shows up on YouTube. It might just say Samuel Lee, or it might say Master Sam. I don't even know anymore.
Well, if not, we'll get Sam to put that link back in the bio. So at least then, if you go and follow his page, you'll be able to just click on that link in the bio, and that should take you straight through to the YouTube channel.
Yeah. It should be there now. It's there now. I'm like 95% sure it's there.
Okay, so Sam, it's been great having you on. Again, as I say to everybody, really appreciate your time and giving us a bit of insight into not only your Taekwondo knowledge, but also sharing these great tutorials with everybody and getting them to try out martial arts training. It's been great. So Sam, good to speak to you. Thanks for coming on. And we will try, maybe not now, but later on, but we'll try and get people back on. If you've enjoyed their interviews, just give us a holler and we'll try and get them back on again at a later stage when they're back in their dojos. And you can appreciate and have a look at how you train in the dojo.
Yeah, so I got to do a quick shout out. So
that's fine.
J09, tell them to get an athletic trainer too. Yeah, so especially if you have an injury, guys, sometimes it is good to get that professional help, like for sure. That's how I felt, at least. Like I was trying to treat it myself and it was just not going, it was getting worse actually. And then my athletic trainer, Jay, he started doing all this other crazy techniques and stuff. And he got me right in like a month. And that was the first time I did it by myself. It took me 5 months.
Okay.
So all my injured people, try to find someone to help you out who knows what they're talking about. Definitely does help out. But thanks for having me. I know, man, I'm gonna take another hour of your time.
No, that's fine. You've got to get ready because you're going on lockdown. So get the right pieces of equipment. So... take those back home with you. So that's.
I'm gonna try to shoot a lot of footage. Those of you guys who are just joining now and are asking me, how do I do this? There's only so much that I can do on Instagram because I try to make it 1 minute. And a lot of the questions they require more of a comprehensive curriculum. And it is something I am making right now that is a course. It will be an online course, and I'm gonna try to make it really cheap, I guess. And the business side of me, that's a really dumb idea. The martial arts side of me, the teacher side of me say that's a great idea. But there are several I need to make. So this will just be one part because I'm not going to talk about sparring because that's going to be so long. I'm not going to talk about tricking until another one because that's another thing. This is just like your fundamentals of all kicking techniques. So those of you guys who are like asking me a million questions, I think that might be a better fit for some of you guys.
Okay. So when you've when you release the first one, send us a DM and we'll put it out to everybody and all of our followers so we can all come and take a look at that.
Yeah, I'll start posting it up too. I'm gonna leak some of the tips that I think are pretty useful to try to entice people like listen, this is the type of stuff I'm gonna be talking about. So you'll see posts from me. I'll reach out to you too. And hopefully we can get the knowledge. It's really about getting the knowledge out there, especially those who may not be able to afford traditional classes. I get it. But I guess it's me trying to give back in a sense to international community that's at least supported me on Instagram. Will Taekwondo help in the street fight? We already talked about that, so you have to watch it in the YouTube video that Taekwondo Worldwide is going to post. Short answer, yes, but there's a but.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get everything back up on YouTube. So make sure everyone, when you get the opportunity, I'll be putting it in the bio. Just telling you all when these videos take a bit of time to upload to YouTube. So as soon as it's done, we'll inform everybody. Make sure that you tune in. Sam, it's been great speaking.
Yes, likewise.
We will definitely speak again.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anytime, just hit me up, man.
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing.
Got time on my hands,
Everybody appreciates you, and next time we're going to catch you at home, and then we're going to catch you back when you're back in the dojo. So
yes, true.
Thanks again for coming on, and we'll speak soon.
Yes. Peace. I don't know how to exit this room. I guess I just X out here.
So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. That was hwarangsam. Be sure to go and follow his Instagram page. If you don't know or you can't find that, then just come back to us on Taekwondo Worldwide, send a DM, and we'll send you a link. It's been great having you all there. Hope it's been interesting. See you on the next one.